Hello and welcome to episode 17 of our Timberborn Update 6 Emberpelts hard mode playthrough here in Cycle 24, Day 4. Back in this playthrough after a long time. Various circumstances, still working through a couple things, but glad to be back in this one, because we've got a lot of stuff still to accomplish in this playthrough. Last time we got this area up here a little bit closer. It's what I would consider to be fully prepared for independent operation, but there's still plenty of work left to do. What we've got going on right now is we have a bunch of dynamite getting brought in here so we can flatten this area out and turn it into a large tree farm. Of course, with the goal of eventually supporting bot production and all of these things. We've got bots being made right now, and we've got bots making bots. Not quite bots making bot parts. Not yet. But we're going to get there just as soon as we can, justify spending the science for that. And there's a bunch of other stuff that's going on too. But let's go ahead and hit pause real quick, just for a second, because we got to talk about what's going on up here. We're trying to make fuel out of bad water, which requires, of course, that we have bad water and charcoal. And we have storage set up kind of to support this. We've got a little bit of storage for the charcoal here. But you might notice there's not actually storage for bad water over here. In fact, there's not even bad water storage next to the bad water rig, and we're not even using it. So what's happening right now, before we do anything else, is bad water is being brought over from all the way over here, all the way to this guy, to make some fuel. Now, granted, there is still fuel being made over here, and we have plenty of it. It's not a problem. But we got to do something about that. And our refinery here making lubricant is going to need some canola oil, some extract, and some pine resin. And you might notice we don't have any pine resin. Not only do we not have any pine resin, we don't have any pine trees. So obviously that needs to be something that gets taken care of sooner rather than later. And I believe I said something previously about this area being turned into a little bit of a pine forest. But that's going to take some time. So what I want to do before we get too comfortable with ourselves, first of all, Tapper Shack here has to be the building that actually harvests from those trees. So I figured what probably would make the most sense would be, first of all, we don't need these contamination barriers anymore. We can just completely rip this down. And I want to turn these trees here into a small grove of pine trees. And I think that's going to be a smart thing for us to do. So I'm going to put in this lumberjack flag here and mark these trees for cutting, get that taken care of, and then just demolish all this mess. We don't need the barriers or any of that stuff. We just want to put the paths back in because, of course, there's no more contamination coming through here. Nice and easy. No problems. Just a whole bunch of random fixes until everything's taken care of. But that's going to increase the range of the Tapper Shack by a single tile so we can get this one tree. I know. But it's one of those things we had to take care of eventually. And they're going to do their best to get all that put in place. So that's one thing that we got to kind of fix. And before they finish building this tank, I think what I'm going to do, just to kind of make this area not quite so much of a disaster, is I'm going to move these tanks, and I'm going to put 3 of them up on top of here. And I'll tell you why. First off, we need the storage for all of these things here to make the lubricant and to make the fuel in the refinery. So, if we just go ahead and have that all situated, all taken care of, which one is the canola oil? That's going to allow us to have the ingredients for all these things above this. And then here, instead of having these 2 tanks be for extract and for canola oil, which is what I was originally trying to do, we can actually have a big tank for lubricant, because we already have the tank for fuel here. It's not that far. These are all going to be prioritized by haulers at some point anyway. So, I just figured that would be so much of a better way to do things. So, we're going to get them taken care of that. And then I'm going to put another ladder on top of here. I always have to remember where the ladder is actually positioned in these menus every single time. But we're going to get that taken care of. And, you know, just a little bit more of an intelligent design, if you will, for how this is laid out. It just makes sense to have that there. And since we're going to be working with stuff over here as well, it just makes sense for us to have additional access to all this stuff. So I will put a ladder there just to go into that stack and get that situated. So, you know, it's interoperability between different spots here. Always going to be something that's going to be worth doing. Let's go ahead and get this lumberjack flag popped in place. These guys are putting in the work over here. And there's a lot more we still have to do. So we do need to make sure we keep checking in on that. But there's a lot of other stuff you guys mentioned. Specifically, these compact water wheels aren't cutting the mustard anymore for getting our water pumps going. So yes, we do have to put in some sort of a power plant over here to get our water pumping out of this thing. And that is something we need to keep on working on. That tree needs to get replanted, so that's taken care of. But seeing how this is currently set up, we don't need to have this forester here. I know we talked about this a bunch of times. But now, this guy can finally go away. I'm going to go ahead and just remove all of these. And now I've got this space over here. We've got our engines that we can utilize. Now these guys, 6 of these, can run off of a single normal engine. And I don't think we're ever going to have more than 6 of these automated pumps, because we're probably not going to have that many beavers anyway. So if we wanted to, we could just put in one of these guys, right like so, right on the end here, and then that would just be what it's going to be. No problems. Just nice and easy. You know what? No, we're not cavemen. We have technology. We can just hit that thing there. And we'll get these guys operating sooner rather than later. The only reason that this is here like this is because I wanted to be able to, you know, still get across this one. But I'm going to be honest, we did not do a fantastic job. And when I say we, I mean me. I did not do a fantastic job of getting this whole thing completely set up in a way that makes a whole lot of sense. So that is unfortunately part of the deal. You got to just be able to do stuff, right? Don't make excuses, just do it. So that is going to be what goes here. And I know we have the liquid fuel engines, but, you know, there's no need to overcomplicate this. There really isn't. So we'll just pop that guy in there. That's going to be totally fine. And then he just has to have a small storage for his charcoal. But I have to remember what type of building the charcoal goes in. Okay, it is a pile. Just don't want to make too many dumb mistakes if I can at all avoid it. So they'll get taken care of that. We do have, of course, our dam completely fixed. There's no more overflow. Well, the overflow comes off this backside here, but that's totally fine. We're looking really good shape. We do have some water coming in here. That is actually kind of irrigating this area, which is a little funny. But obviously, that is not something that we're tremendously concerned about. We're just kind of letting it do what it's got to do. And then we want to take a look at how this is set up. It's at 0.85. Long term, we really don't want to have this whole thing be completely filled with water. Especially if, you know, this is just going to empty this guy out. So it's going to be suboptimal for a little while longer. But I do want to come in here and dynamite a bunch of this out, make this a really big reservoir that can hold plenty of water. But it's one of those things that's just going to take time. And guess what? Somebody, I'm not going to say names. Somebody did not set this to be pine trees. So we have to take care of that. Of course, because you know that's how this works. They'll get that all dealt with. Still working on getting the rest of this stuff in place, and that is certainly a process. But our chief issue with the bot part factories not being automated is that it takes 5,000 science, which we do have one number cruncher working. We probably need more. But for right now, we're just kind of bound with what we can and cannot do. If I were to put in another number cruncher, I think I've got the materials for it. But it takes 500 HP. And we really don't have that much extra. And if we're going to have a drought, then these aren't going to be turning until we can put in, you know, our forced bad water discharges, which we're not quite there yet. So, you know, everything in time, everything has a season. You know how it goes. Just got to do what we got to do and trust the process that it will actually have some sort of a beneficial endpoint when we get around to everything. But the exciting thing over here is that most of this is done. Not all of it, but most of it is looking pretty good. And we're at a point now where just a few more of these are going to go in. And then we can detonate this and take stock of where we are for the future tree farm site. Because that is going to take a little bit more thinking, a little bit more planning. And get everything done that we can get done. And make sure I unmark these for cutting. And then, of course, these 7 pine trees, very, very, very slowly getting off to whatever kind of start we can get them. And then we have this area, too. Remember, I promised we were going to have these apple trees, this whole area kind of leveled off. Because these guys have to get their trees removed. Yeah, I think that's going to be the best thing we can do, is just slowly get rid of stuff. So I am going to replace this with a lumberjack flag, and we're going to cut down all these apple trees here because, you know, the whole thing just takes time, and after a certain point, you can't wait any longer. People don't want to spend their whole lives waiting for trees to get cut down, so got to get that thing going. But it looks like all of our pieces are ready to go, so let's go ahead and set these guys off. Look at that. Look at that. All right. Now this is exciting because this gets us pretty much most of the way to where we wanted to go. And I do still want to fill in a bunch of this space, but we can kind of visualize stuff now. Now, there's a little bit more here that I did want to get rid of. But what we can do is we can take a look at our irrigation range. Because remember that there is a finite range. It's about 14, about 15. If that number is not exactly correct, then, well, you know how it goes. But if we take here, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. From here is right about here. And then this range as well. So what I'm getting at, is that right about here, roughly in this central area, is about where we want to put our dump here. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish. It's going to get us pretty stinking close. So that's going to be just about perfect for what we want to be doing. Going to irrigate most of this area, especially once we start filling in ground here. Remember that's something that, you know, takes a pretty decent amount of time. And we've got a 27-day drought to think about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close these sluice gates here so we don't just constantly exhaust all of the water in here to keep this lake filled up. Because, you know, it's nice to have all this water here, but it really isn't that necessary. And I do think there's going to be something we want to do in the future with Terraforming to kind of make little rivers or something in here, but it's probably a pretty far way off. There's so much other stuff that we've got to take care of. And I think it's about time for us to have a very high prioritized tree removal session here. So we can take care of the rest of this stuff, get these guys going. And we've got extra bots that aren't doing anything. We got bots that aren't doing anything, and I think I want to employ them. I really would love to put them in these bot part factories, but for right now, probably I'm not going to use the science to unlock new stuff. But we're going to want to get them in other spots over here, like farmhouses. Maybe not like the best use for bots, but, you know, we can use them while we're waiting for other stuff. Like, you know, builders huts are actually really good, but we don't have fuel everywhere yet. This does come up pretty often in the comments. We don't have fuel. We don't have the control towers, we don't have the support infrastructure in place to really justify using bots as haulers or builders yet. We will get there. We will get there. So that is part of the reason why this area over here has been mostly automated with the bots. Not entirely, but mostly just because this is what we're able to utilize without it being some sort of just absolute disaster. So once we get our 5,000 sites, these are going to be the next things to go. And I know this one's set to builder set because there's fuel here. That's pretty much the only reason why that is reasonable to exist. But we're working on it. We're letting them do what they can do. Gotta get a couple more pine trees planted down here. Unmark these for cutting. And then hopefully at some point soon-ish they'll take care of all this. But yeah, we've got to make use of our bots for other stuff. Gotta do it. We got this small engine here that's powering these guys that probably needs to be replaced with something else. But I feel like we're gonna have to just bite the bullet and put in some sort of a there we go. That's the fuel. Just have some way for the bots to actually be useful here, because I don't want them just sitting there doing nothing. I'm gonna pop them into these farmhouses, and we'll just let them go to work a little bit so that we can take care of everything else. And then eventually fix everything as we continue moving on. Now, these guys can't access anything yet because... oh, never mind. That's since been fixed. So that extract gets to go away. And then I'm going to put a big in-ground tank here for the lubricant just because this is where it's being made. We're probably going to need to have more than one of these things making it. Yeah, that's true. But for right now, it's what we have. So it's what we're going to be doing. And this is a 4x3 space, so I do want to leave a little bit of room here. Just so we have the ability to move past this. Like I said, the lubricant goes in there, and these guys continue doing what they're doing. This can go ahead and get detonated. And then we need to decide how this path is coming in here. How we want everything to tie in. Because remember, I'm trying to fill in a bunch of this space here, so we can have a little bit more useful area. And if I want this to go all the way across here, which I think I probably do, then what I'm going to have to do is just relocate or put in an additional ladder, I guess probably be the smart thing to do. Put that in right there, and then just have this come in like so. That, of course, will go... I mean, not that we really need to have both of these in here, but, you know, just do it because we can. And then we'll figure out probably best way is going to be to just come in on that side. And that's going to be fine to have that offset a little bit. Just want to make sure we can build all the rest of these. They didn't have access to these quite yet, but they'll get there. The builders are a little bit behind, understandably, but it'll happen. We'll be all right. Looks like they're working on the engine now, which is ready to go. Prioritize that. And looks like things are going pretty well. Now, since we're here, I did want to address something. I know the Emberpelts mod has been updated for Update 7. There's a lot of cool new stuff that it's done. So, probably, you know, not the best time to ask in the middle of a video, but I'll try to remember at the end. Do you guys want me to try to migrate this playthrough to Update 7 and take advantage of all the new stuff? Because there's a lot of cool stuff. They got access to the new transportation options and everything, and then there's also the lodging and the Emberpelts now in the new versions of the mod. If a house is touching another house, they can all share a door, so you can have these things just stacked up in crazy ways and interconnected and building like complex curves and archways and stuff with all these different buildings. You can do some crazy stuff and it looks really cool. But let me know what you want to see. If that's something you want us to do here, that's fine. If you want to just finish this playthrough out in Update 6 and start a new one with Update 7, that's also okay. It's just going to take us a kind of a long time to get there. But I want to make sure that if you guys want to see that new stuff, then we can make an effort to make it happen. So let's get that dynamite out. Put our platforms in place. And since this is going to be a forest for wood production, we are going to have a forester here. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. I'm just putting it that way because I can. And then we have to have a fluid dump. And if I really, really felt like it, we could detonate this down a lot more than put in something to automate this. But where it is now, I don't think it's really going to matter. Just got to get this thing rolling. And we'll see what we can see. Now, our dirt situation is continuing to improve. Obviously, we want to have this as useful as possible. So I do think I will continue popping this in here. You know, it's just one of those things that takes time. Update 7, not Update 6. Remember, we're in Update 6. But Update 7 allows us to do the forbidden thing where we put terrain on top of supports. So, just letting you know, we can't do that in this playthrough unless we change over to Update 7. But I think it would be a whole lot of fun to be able to do that. I don't want to make that move if it's not what you guys want. I'm going to try to keep everybody's best interest in mind here. And we'll just continue on doing what we can do. But as soon as this gets filled up, we're going to have a pretty good idea how much irrigation it's going to give us. I'm like 99% sure it should be most of this area. And if it's not the entire thing, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm just trying to get something accomplished here, folks. Gonna do what we gotta do. So, let's see. 4 here, 4 here. I'm gonna leave right here, right across. Just 3 of these guys. I know this is arable land, but it's gonna be fine. Don't need to worry about it. Gonna put a lumberjack there for that side. And then I probably should put another one all the way out here if we're going to be taking care of different spaces. But I know the optimum amount is 8 in a perfect world where everything is growing and you don't have any empty spaces or whatever. So this with 5 is probably going to be okay. Maybe put in a 6th depending on how we want to, get the rest of this stuff going. Just got to get this filled up with water and got to get the beaver who's working in here to actually work. So we'll come back and check on that at some point. Halfway through the tree growing stage for this pine. Not these guys, because we had to wait a long time for those to work. So we are still about 12, 13 days away from having pine resin. But that's going to allow us, once we have that, to get into making the lubricant, which of course is going to make things easier for our bots. And that's always a good thing. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. It got pretty much everything I wanted it to get. So that is a very, very good thing to see. Just need to make sure that the rest of this gets popped in place here. I am going to completely fill in the space around our Badwater rig here. That's fine. We might even put platforms over it. But I do want to be able to utilize all of this space, if we can at all do so. So these blockages do have to get removed. I just want to be careful about how I do that. Obviously these guys have nothing to cut yet, so that's going to get paused. We just can't forget that, we did that. And that's the way it goes. 4,400 science. We're getting closer to having these guys in the bot part factories. Let's take a look at the rest of the to-do list, since that's going to take a little bit longer. Yeah, a lot of this stuff we've kind of accidentally accomplished without talking about it. But I think the biggest thing that we can take away is we need a better solution long-term to water storage than how this is currently set up. A bunch of suggestions, a bunch of ideas, so I appreciate you guys' input on that. Like I said, kind of at the top of the episode, we really need to get this enlarged, get stuff blasted out. and continue hoarding more water in here. And yes, we can, if we feel so inclined, expand to make use of all of this space and then move these things out of this river, or the dry riverbed, rather, at some point. Presently, not a crazy huge priority, for me personally at least. So that's fine, I suppose. I need to make sure they can get rid of all of this stuff. And then I do want to continue filling in terrain. We've got a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff to take care of. So that's going to take some time. Get this guy paused. Get that guy paused. Still planting trees. I guess if we're pretty convinced that's what this is going to end up looking like long term, then I suppose that's going to be fine. I don't think we really need to be worried about. We can always just individually pick out single trees that need to get removed. We'll just mark the rest of these. The only reason I haven't built any on this side is because I do want to get the rest of this land taken care of. But there's just so much going on. It's not a quick process, so we'll have to come back in due time. Probably worth long-term getting into building another bad water discharge pretty soon. The explosives do unfortunately have the issue of not having a ton of bad water right now. So if we can manage to get 50 of those, and then we can start getting one of these set up, get it built in such a way that, you know, nobody's gonna get poisoned while doing it, then that, I think, would be a smart thing for us to do. Pretty easily achieved by putting in a single platform and then one of our bridges on the end. So they can build that one. And then, of course, the only reason I wouldn't do two of these at the same time is because I'm not going to have enough dynamite to do all that at once. Hopefully you can understand that. The rest of this blowing up stuff, I don't think we're actually using, except for the mine. So I'm going to pause the mine for right now, just a little bit, so we can use the explosives to actually build this bad water discharge, because that's really important. It is super, super important to get done. So let's get that cooking there. Because once that's gone and we have more water flowing through here, then yes, we can build our second number cruncher, but I don't have the power to run all of this at this point right now. You know, it's a process. I know you hate me saying that so much, but I say it because it's real, it's true. That's how it goes, man. We are at 4850, 150 more, and we can get them in here, and that should really, really increase bot production speed, and then we can get a whole lot more stuff accomplished, and it's going to be like lightning quick. Lightning speed, folks. But we just have to wait for that to be a thing, and we can get these other things situated as well. So I said something about us not having enough fuel to justify having bots as builders and haulers at this point, and that is a process that's just going to have to continue as we go along. Control towers obviously are going to help a whole lot with that, but the biggest thing that we can do is start just, you know, placing random small tanks for fuel in different locations so that the bots can actually, you know, refuel pretty much anywhere without it being a big deal. Just like little tiny spots like right here where we know they can access it even if it's not too far away from another tank. Just any small spot where there's like a little bit of extra space that otherwise would go wasted. Just pop in a couple of these guys here. Trying to find little hidey holes somewhere where it's going to make sense. Now, why would you put one next to the barracks? Well, because the spot exists. And for right now, that's what we're going to be using it for. Yeah, see, just so many opportunities here to make use of space we're otherwise not using, I think is a smart choice. And this area here specifically probably would benefit from us having additional presses of stuff instead of another tank somewhere. But At some point, we are going to have additional tank storage for fuel so our bots can do other stuff. So this is pretty far away from a lot of the rest of this stuff. Why don't we just go ahead and put a giant underground storage tank and have it set for fuel? And that way, it's going to be a lot less of a problem whenever the bots get around to it. All right, 78% of the way through there. Got trees growing here, looking pretty good. The process continues. It's very slow. We already knew this. But stuff is looking pretty good. Pretty good. We still have a decent amount of water in here. We are pumping to fill up our storage, and it is basically full. So that does shut off, which is nice. We probably need to rotate this guy 90 degrees and put another one in here, but at this present time, I'm not worried about all of our water going away. We've kind of conquered that part of the playthrough, and it hasn't been an issue. So that is very exciting. And I've got 5,000 science in my misplaced zeal. I skipped that. So all of that gets automated. All right, boys and girls, now we can unpause that bot assembler as well. And we, of course, still have bots that are unemployed. We have beavers who are unemployed, but that's okay because unemployed beavers probably should be working as builders instead of these bots here because we don't have a lot of robust fuel distribution. We're slowly making little bits and pieces of progress. This water pump, I'm going to go ahead and just get out of here because there's not really much reason for that. Remember, this is all going to be filled in. So this is going to be a whole bunch of apple trees here. And that's going to be nice, taking care of that. Of course, builders are doing what builders do. Just takes time. Takes a real long time. Now, this guy is automated, right? Yep, sure is. Good. How are we looking here? 85%. Yep. Making progress. They're looking better on these things here. Obviously, there's more trees that have to get planted. And they do have the range there, and it is irrigated. So that is going to be quite nice once that's taken care of. So what do we do now from this point? Well, it's kind of a lot of waiting to get these trees planted, get these guys growing and producing the pine resin and all of that. But I do think there's still a couple small things we could do before we get into, I guess, a time-lapse portion. So let's take a look at our well-being. Looking really, really good on the nutrition front. Radish is not quite there. But what's really suffered is social life stuff and aesthetics. And then, of course, all the monuments we haven't built. So I do think it would be a smart idea, especially as the beavers start getting outmoded from their jobs, to start looking at more of this stuff that we can build. Specifically, you know, like the real easy stuff like the exercise plazas and the dance halls. We have the science just about right now for us to go ahead and put an exercise plaza in. And we have space up here. Yeah, I'm taking this tank out. That doesn't need to be there. That was a mistake. But I'm going to go ahead, as soon as I get 400 science, I'm going to research this exercise plaza. And we're going to put one of these in. Just probably right over here. So it doesn't, you know, stay in the way too much. But it's just a smart idea to have simple ways these beavers can amuse themselves. The scratcher, another really simple thing to put in these little tiny cubbies in different spots on the map that aren't really getting used that much. And it's a nice benefit for those guys as well. So, we fortunately have all of our explosives because we can't make any more until we have more bad water and we can't reach any of it. So, they, I guess, are going to have to get the rest of these 195 gears in place, which we're not really making with any degree of expedience. And we're also using to create additional bots. So, you know, it's another one of those things that just takes time. Just takes time. This one, fortunately, doesn't require any gears. So, we can build it guilt-free. I'll just go ahead and prioritize that. I got my 100 science, so I'm going to get that scratcher unlocked. This is a much better place for a scratcher right here. That is a fantastically better place for a scratcher. So I'm going to put 3 more of those there. I'm going to put 4 more of those there. That's going to give them some sort of outlet for their scratching-based needs. Contemplation spots, another 100. I'd not done like anything with this stuff. I always kind of use these at the end of a playthrough as a, oh, well, I guess we have to do this. But probably should be a little bit better about using these earlier on, because it is a tremendous benefit to the well-being and, of course, by proxy, the lifespan and the working ability and all that of the beavers. So let's get that 100 science. We're getting pretty close. And then I'm going to put some contemplation spots in as well. And then I think it will be time for one of our time lapses once again. So I've got 2 there, I got 2 there, and I know this isn't really like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but this is going to help our beavers a whole lot, just getting these things in place. And I think, friends, this is a very opportune time for us to go ahead and enter time-lapse mode. So, in case you're unfamiliar, what I typically do with the time lapses is I just let the game run, finish a bunch of projects that are outstanding, try to fix some of the clogs, stopgaps, whatever in the industrial process, if I can, and just generally make a lot of progress that wouldn't be that interesting to watch in single time speed, so we can move on to what you guys want to see, which is actual improvements, building stuff, and unlocking new technologies. So, during this, while I'm still yapping here for a little bit, you will see some of that stuff get taken care of. A whole lot of moving around, and I do try sometimes to have interesting views for at least a little bit of time, so while this is all zipping by, you have something interesting to look at. I think the exercise plaza, it's probably already moved on from that at this point, but I think the exercise plaza with the Emberpelts is a really fun thing to watch, just because all the beavers have different color fur, versus, you know, in the Iron Teeth playthroughs, they've got the, they're all basically the same shade of gray, but you got different shades of red, orange, you got the gray here, and then of course the Emberpelts mod natively, since our beaver name list isn't working right, and I am working on some solutions for that. I just really have not had the time to dive into it yet, but you will see occasionally some very uniquely colored beavers. That is a tribute in that mod to some of the modders in the Timberborn community, which I think is a really fun thing. But yeah, that's basically what's going on. You'll see some stuff improved. You'll see us move all over the map. Just take care of some tiny little things. And then we'll catch up at the end of this one, and we'll see what we got accomplished, and if there's anything else we can do before the end of the episode proper. But I'll see you on the other side of this one. Alright, so let's come out of this time-lapse real quick, and let's talk a little bit about what we got done. It seemed very, very obvious that these pine trees were not going to be enough, and this was not going to be nearly ready in time for us to actually get any sort of lubricant going. So I did elect to add some more pine trees there, and looks like we got one more that needs to get popped in there. So we did that. We started the process of putting in additional land here. We've got a whole bunch of oaks growing. I did automate the forester, and I started automating other foresters and other stuff as well. Well, this is really the only forester that we could automate, but this is now automated fully with bots planting and cutting down the trees, and hopefully that ends up working out a little bit nicer. I just decided to let this dry out and not worry about it. These trees are not going to die. They're going to have water in another couple days anyhow, so that's totally fine. Well-being is up to 30 average-ish, which is nice. I did put in some fuel in different spots, and I also automated 2 of these hauling posts. Now, I know we still have to have control towers, but we need to get some more gears going first, and I think the easiest, best way to do that long-term is going to be to let that be part of this complex up here. We will turn all of these oak trees into all the parts needed to make additional bots here. And I did end up pausing 2 of these bot part factories that were consuming gears, specifically the ones making heads, because I wanted them to be able to have these bad water discharges working. And we did get the first one working, so that's a good thing. This one still needs 160-something gears which I guess is to be expected. But that does allow this to continue a little bit and continue making more dirt for us, which is, of course, being used here. I've got most of this area set to get completely filled in. I'm working on this a little bit as well. And then this area here where the apple trees were, I thought about expanding this to be more apples and all that, but, you know, our storage on apples is basically maxed out as is with all this. So I wanted to give you guys the option of deciding what would go here. Whether we keep this as apples or we just make it all farming stuff, just growing crops, or would you rather see something else? Now, I know there's a lot of you that want to see different housing stuff, like putting it in the cliffs and stuff. We could definitely do that, but obviously right here is not the place where that would be happening. This area around here might be a decent spot to try that out in due time, you know, because it all does take time. But yeah, other than that, just, you know, small bits and pieces of improvements here and there. I put in a couple of fuel tanks in different spots, and honestly, we're looking pretty good for most of this. We have 25 beavers who are not working because they have no jobs to do. We still have some who are incapacitated, and, you know, that's just going to happen. But there's a couple more things that I wanted to discuss without doing them during the time lapse, and that is the Badwater rig. I really think we should automate, and that does cost 2,000 science, so I'm going to go ahead and unlock that, and I'm going to cap this at 2 bots coming in here, and of course we are going to have to connect it with a path, provided I can actually click on it. There we go. So that's going to give these guys access to Badwater a lot easier to make the fuel and refinery and all that stuff. So that's a good thing to improve there. Plus, it's nice to make use of that space. And this area up here probably needs to be significantly reworked as we transition over more into bots working on stuff. We do have fuel here, which is great because that's going to mean that we can have the dirt excavator and pretty much all this stuff be automated. But it all takes science and it all takes time. So that is something that we do need to continue working on. Obviously, we got these engines here that could easily be replaced with fuel engines. We just need to make sure we have all the materials. And the gears are going to be a problem for that, because the gears are currently all going to the Badwater discharge. But if I pause this and I say, you know what, let's just go ahead and remove this engine and replace it with the fuel one and make this the top priority, then they should be able to do it. So we're going to see them gradually get into that as the materials permit. And, you know, we got less than a day left in cycle 24. And pretty soon it's going to be a brand new cycle, and we'll be able to refill our reservoir, which, yes, this is empty. We're going to be working on this probably next episode after, increasing capacity here. But I honestly can't be upset about this. I think this has worked out pretty well. So, I am still somehow dealing with whatever sickness this was. It's probably about to transition to allergies, because if you've ever lived in the South, you know the first couple of weeks of March into February, sometimes depending on weather, can turn into just an absolute pollen apocalypse. And never in my life have I had problems until the past couple of years, so who knows? It's going to be absolutely miserable for probably forever at this point. But the beavers make it a little bit better, and you guys do as well, by virtue of being part of all of our fun here. So, Beard Boosters, thank you so much for your support, especially, you know, times like the last week and a half or so, where, for whatever reason, it's very hard to make videos, or impossible some days, to get anything done. The extra support that those folks give really helps offset some of the anxiety about, oh no, is the channel going to die because I didn't upload a beaver video every day? Like, realistically, no, but these are the things that run through your mind when you're used to uploading videos every day, and a lot of stuff does really well, and there's a lot of momentum that you want to capitalize on because it's fun. It's fun, and we get to have a good time doing it, and every single subscriber and every single view and everything that happens just directly advances my position in life, which is fantastic, because this is just a fun hobby and now I get to pay my bills with it. So I really appreciate the support as we enter cycle 25. I hope whatever it is you do with the rest of your day, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you back again very soon in this series, and then of course the other ones as well, as many as I'm able to do without I guess getting worse health-wise. I don't know what's going on, but it's, I don't know, probably fine. We'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.